Welcome to Stealership Stories.
Waiter.
Excuse me?
We got a waiter, man.
What do you mean, waiter?
Bro, you know how this
I'm
works.
trying to do a podcast.
I got a guy.
You bring a waiter
passing through.
5 minutes, it's lunchtime.
It's
you want me to do a
below
waiter?
zero. His tire pressure light's on.
Tire pressure?
It's your problem
in
now.
the winter. There's a shocker.
He's traveling through Illinois. Hey, stuff's got to happen.
That brings us to a good point. Most people, they decide to go on a vacation or a trip, and they wait till the very last minute, or they set up a schedule to say, hey, I'll get my oil changed the day before or the same day. They should be able to get it done in a half an hour or so, and then we'll tally on down the road. But what normally happens when those cars come in?
Well, it's of course, we want to try to help everybody that comes through. We want to try to, be the best we can and take care of everybody we can, even if it's someone that's not a long-term client of ours. But you still have those people, like you said, that just don't tend to plan as well as you would think they would, or that have the problems that arise on a trip. It just has to get done, and we try to take care of them. Those are usually the biggest fears that you'll run into, is not having something that someone needs to keep and continue on their trip. It does happen, but we try to take care of new people we don't know at all, or traveling through just as well as we do the people that have been coming for years. I'm sure you've had your lunch interrupted plenty of times.
Plenty of times. Well, they come in with the idea that they'll just do the oil change real quick. 10 minutes, 15 minutes, I'll be back on the road and I'll get what I need done. Do you really want the most important thing done in your car in 10 minutes or less?
Yeah, I've got a great, just recent example of that. A guy called me. We've had the car at our dealership now for going on 2 months, but he called me 8 days before his certified pre-owned warranty expired, and the engine had seized while he was driving. The failure was the oil filter. It was an aftermarket cheap oil filter, and I think he saved himself maybe $10 on the oil change from taking it to a quick lube compared to a dealer. The oil filter collapsed and starved the engine of oil. It locked up the engine. Mercedes, the first thing they ask for is maintenance records, and when they see the last service was done outside the network or was using aftermarket parts, whatever, and that was the cause of failure, they're not going to warranty the engine. So now that $13,000 engine job is going to be coming out of your pocket over $10, $20. Even if it's $100, it's just not worth it to have somebody that's just not accustomed to looking at that type of vehicle. Quick lube changes see all types of vehicles come in, and it's just best to have a technician that's able to identify common issues and know what things to check.
Well, see, you said the key word right there is a technician. There's a huge difference between a mechanic and a technician in my mind. And anyone that's ever called me a mechanic, I automatically corrected them and says, no.
Yeah.
I'm a technician. There's a difference.
Yeah.
One of them can tell you what's broke. The other one can tell you how it broke and how to prevent it from breaking and do it the right way.
Sure.
So you take your car to wherever you want to take it to get an oil change. You figure it's just an oil change. Anyone should be able to do it. Well, that's the problem. Most of the guys that they pay at these oil change places, they're $8 to $10 an hour just to change oil. Most of the time, mom and dad want them to have a job, so that's why they're there, or they're just trying to get through high school and make a couple bucks. They don't even know what they're looking at. They just know where the filter's at and how much oil, or hopefully they know how much oil is supposed to go in there. And it's honestly the most important thing that can be done to a car, because if the engine's not running, what good is your car?
Yeah.
So I've had people that they'll not want to come to us because they feel that or let's say the dealer. They don't want to go to the dealer because they feel that it's more expensive, right? But
right.
You're having somebody that knows your car inside and out, not only change the oil, but look over the car.
Yeah.
You bring it to a 10-minute quick lube, I don't care where you go, those guys see so many cars, they don't have the chance to even know what's common or even know what they're looking at. They're just there to hurry up, drain the oil, pop some new stuff in, let's sell them an air filter, wipers,
right.
Maybe a dust filter. Hopefully they put air in your spare. That was one thing that I was big on, was nobody puts air in spare tires.
Yeah.
What's the worst thing that's ever happened to you when you get a flat? You go out there, all gung-ho, I'll change it myself. You get to the spare tire, how much air is in there?
Right.
0. Now where are you at? You're dead in the water.
Yeah.
And, the couple bucks you saved on an oil change cost you $80 in a tow, or $80 for a guy to come out and put your spare on.
Yeah.
Nothing's more embarrassing than being an able-bodied male, go out there to change your own tire and you can't, right? Because there's no air in there.
Right. Yeah. The proper equipment, or you don't know what's there. Like you said, the tire's flat. You're going to be in the same position position you were after it was punctured. But yeah, little things like that for sure is making someone that is accustomed to seeing the vehicles and able to go through it and make sure you're taken care of. And any, obvious potential issues are brought to your attention. And that's the thing, too. You get a lot of people thinking that we're trying to sell you a lot of different things. It is our job to inform you as to what's going on with the car, what the factory requires for maintenance. We're not going to try to sell you personally power steering flushes, blinker fluid top-ups, anything like that that's not needed by the factory. We're going to inform you what's required based on the inspection, based on the factory maintenance checklist. So in the long run, that's going to save you a lot of hassle and headache down the road.
And now there is a difference between what you just said as far as selling them something. There's a difference between making a sale because they purchased what you were explaining to them they need, but you're not actually trying to sell them anything, right? You look over the car, we find out what they need, get them the estimate, and we present it to them. Right. It's up to them to make the decision if they want it or not, which most of the time we don't want them making a decision, because like we talked about in a previous episode, if we give you the decision, which one are you going to go with? The one that saves you the most money, right?
Right.
So the oil change stuff, it actually, for something so simple, it's the most abused part of the car because you want to save the buck on the oil change. So let's look at it from our end. On most cars nowadays, the minimum oil change time interval is 5,000 miles. I don't even know if any cars go less than that now. It's between 5 to 13,000 depending on the make or model. Your dash will give you a percentage and it'll tell you your oil life, correct? Okay.
Correct. And I don't even know if any cars are still using standard oil. I think pretty much across the board synthetic, and you can trust that oil to last a long time. And we'll get people across the board, people that don't want to do it at 10,000. They think it should be done every 5, which is just wasting money. Or people that think that it's fine for 15, 20,000, which you're really pushing your luck there. It's just not worth the extra money you're saving.
So let's say that on our specific personal vehicles, right? The light will go off about 8,500 miles, okay? And the owner's manual states if it doesn't go off by 10,000, then make sure you take it in and just get it done because you don't want it to go longer than 10,000, right?
Right.
So now if I didn't take it to the dealer and they knew that, I would take it to a speed lube. That's the crack at the quarter-way mark. I would take it to a speed lube, and if I go to a quick oil change place, they're going to print up a sticker and put it in a window that says oil change due in 3 months or 3,000 miles. So now, you originally went there because you wanted to save money, and you save money on that one oil change. But now instead of doing that oil change one time through that whole year, now you're doing it 4 times every 3 months because the sticker that they put in there is what you decide you want to follow because that's the number that's poking you in the eye, not the actual dash warning that will say service or oil change or rotation due. So basically in almost any car, minimum 5,000 mile oil change, and at the same time, you generally want to rotate your tires if they're rotatable.
Yeah, just read the owner's manual. So much good information there, and feels like there's people just not reading it and checking it out. For the amount of money the investment is you're making in that vehicle, definitely worth looking into what it requires and when. And something also to factor into when you're purchasing a vehicle is if it's something you can afford long term. I feel that happens quite a bit too.
Yeah,
we're not realizing.
We're going to keep stressing that fact because
cost of ownership.
You want the car of your dreams. You get the car of your dreams, and then you spend the rest of your ownership hating every place you go to because everything's expensive. There is a dollar amount that comes along with certain brand names.
Complaining that the car breaks all the time or has problems all the time when a lot of it comes down to lack of maintenance, things that could have easily been avoided. Just having someone knowledgeable, professional looking at your vehicle when it's time and due for service. That brings up another good topic of people just doing maintenance themselves, and that is an option that people do, and as long as you use the right parts, document carefully. I've seen warranty jobs be approved with people doing the maintenance themselves and having the proper documentation.
As long as you can back it up because they want to see proof of that.
Yeah, and I understand that, wanting to be, especially if it's a special kind of car and you want to kind of have that connection to it, and you're just that kind of person that likes to enjoy spending the weekend changing the oil or flushing the brakes or whatever things that you can do on your own, air filter, cabin filter, usually pretty straightforward and can be done. But there are some nuances to those things that a layperson may not understand.
Oh, for sure. Yep.
And things that can be avoided, clips broken, things not reinstalled properly, check engine lights caused because of not completely fastening down an airbox that would easily be avoided by taking to someone that knows what they're doing.
Well, how many times have we replaced hundreds of dollars worth of control modules or fuse boxes because somebody tried to change their own cigarette lighter fuse and didn't put the lid back on?
Sure.
And because the lid wasn't on, all the water got inside the module and caused wipers to go off by themselves, windows to roll down, trunks to pop open, just all kinds of crazy stuff. You think the car was possessed? Water's
not good in control modules. I'll never forget the CL. We had the situation with the two-door S-Class. Completely, it totaled the vehicle.
It did, yeah.
It ended up totaling out that vehicle for an insurance claim that could have easily been avoided by someone just snapping down the box lid properly.
And in fact, I believe that was the hot dog stand owner that jumped my shit when I went to get some lunch, wasn't it?
Yeah.
I believe that leads us to story time. So,
right.
So we get this car towed in, and Ralph comes back and says, I need you to look it over. The story has it that it looks like somebody might have tried to break into it and steal some modules. And
That's
not only
correct.
that, some lids were left loose. They can't get the hood open.
That was the initial story that was brought to us,
right.
Is that the car was, someone attempted to break into the car. And as we went from there, things started to unravel and become a little more clear.
So I'm looking over this car, and the insurance adjuster comes out, and we're discussing. And when an insurance adjuster comes out, they look over the information you present them, and then they make their own assessment. They build their story, and then they forward their story to their higher-ups. And then based on that, that's when the claim is either approved or denied. So if you have your car at a shop, it's rare that the technician is actually the one making the call. They're just presenting the info that they have at that moment. So I'm looking over this car. The trunk is not pried open. It's broke where the hinge is rusted, so that made it look like it was stuck open, right? So I opened the engine hood, finally finagle it open. Control modules are missing like they were sold on eBay. Nothing is cut, which if I'm going to steal something, I'm going to cut some wires, right? I'm not going to gently unplug 40 connections, right? I'm going to just unplug it or snip the wires and be on my way.
There's really no value in a certain car specific that's not a common car control module.
Oh, yeah, they're so specific.
The story to begin with was a little interesting.
So
far-fetched.
I had no idea who the client was. So and actually this one I like to call a customer because this guy and his buddy they drove us pretty crazy.
Character.
So the job gets declined. I don't know, weeks go by. I decide to run out and get us some Chicago-style food. I'll give you a hint of where this is at. So I go get some Chicago-style food. I walk in there, and I see the guy, and I know the guy is a customer, and he's sitting there, and he's got his hand on his chin, and he's tapping his leg, and he's side-eyeing me, right? And I'm up there at the counter, and I feel the heat on the left side of my body, like, what's going on over here? So I order the food. I'm sitting there waiting. I take a couple steps back and sit in a chair, and he's rocking his head to the TV, looking back at me, looking back to the TV, looking back at me, and I go, "Hey man, what's up?" And he lets loose. "Why are you no telling Mr. Broken my car?" Whoa, man, like, what's going on? I took the car there. You told him, but no, the insurance no covered. I had to pay $40,000 to fix it. Like, go on there, buddy. Like, I don't even know what's going on here. Like, I'm just here for an Italian beef sandwich. So he's hot in the face. I mean, he is mad. Angry. And I go, what is going on here? And he goes, I'm not going to do the accent no more because my accent's not working tonight. But he goes, I bring you the car, you look over the car, you tell insurance that no one tried to steal it, no one broke into nothing, and they denied it, and I had to fix everything myself. And I go, what the hell are you talking about? And then he told me the car, and I put two and two together. And I'm like, oh my God, like, do I need to go and get McDonald's or something? Are you going to shit in my food? Like, should I leave? No, I want you to eat, enjoy the food. I'm like, well, I don't feel comfortable even being here anymore. Like, you're freaking me out, dude. And he was so mad that he thought that I was the one that said no, when all I did was present them what I found.
Right.
There was no evidence. It looked to me like you went to the auction, you bought a shit box, you put insurance on it, you waited 30 days, you drove it into us or towed it into us and said, here's what happened to the car. I want insurance to cover it. Well, you get what you get and you don't make a fit. That's what my kid says, right? So, like that's on you, dude. So I get this bag of food and I'm looking at it. I'm like, should I even take this food? He goes, no, the food is fine. He's like, I said, listen, man, if you'd have came back and talked to me, maybe I could have done something to help you out. Maybe I could have presented it in a little bit of different way. I'm like, but from the outside looking in, there was nothing about this car that was fishy as far as someone trying to steal it. It was more so like, this is how the car was been after the previous owner took stuff out of it and left stuff break. So
right.
It was just, oh man. So on top of that one, how about his buddy?
I like it.
His other buddy. It tends to be that the business owners, not all of them, right? Just some that buy older Benzes or older Highline cars, any kind of car, right?
Luxury cars.
They work hard for their money, so they're really tight-fisted. They don't want to let it go, right? Which you can understand, especially when they're of foreign descent because they come to America, living the American dream,
right?
Working for a business, right?
I get it.
The Americans ain't getting my money, right? You can understand that. I mean, I get it. So his partner in crime, which we didn't really know they were buddies at the time, he brings me his car and he says, my car shakes at highway speeds, right? Okay, so I take it for a ride.
Easy enough.
Bring it back in. All 4 wheels are bent, okay? All of them, all right? So we tell him, hey, you need 4 wheels. Okay, months go by. Brings the car back in. Says, hey, I went and got new wheels. Now, this guy has an accent too, but I can't really do that one. He says, I got all 4 new wheels. And it's still a shake. What do you mean it still shakes? It's still a shake. You were wrong. I'm like, okay, well, I'll take it for a drive and see. I don't want to say I wasn't wrong, but let me see what you're saying, right? Maybe there's a different issue that we didn't know because the wheels were bent, so you didn't know if there was an out of round rotor or a wheel bearing, right? Because the wheel was bent. What else are you gonna do?
Right. You got to start with what's most obvious.
Yeah, exactly.
And we see most commonly here in Illinois,
which is rare to have. It fixed it 40% of the time, like we talked about before, right? But sometimes you got to fix one thing and then move on to the next and see if there's more, right? Depending on the situation. So, he tells me they're brand new. I said, okay. So I pull this car and we'll take it for a drive and it's shaking a high hell. Bring the car and look at the wheel. They're not new. They're new to him, right? So I said, hey man, like, what do you mean they're not new? He goes, yeah, I just bought them from my friend. I'm like, all right, well, these wheels are bent. No, they're not bent. I just bought them. I'm like, we're okay. You didn't just buy them new. You just bought them from another car, right? So you traded in 4 bent wheels for 4 more bent wheels. We're in no better situation, right? And he goes, well, let me get to my friend. So he goes up front or calls him, whatever the case is. And next thing you know is both of those. So here's the same guy, right? Both business owners, and they're standing next to each other. And the one guy, he looks at me and he goes, tell them what you told me. I said, the wheels, they're bent. And he goes, they're not a bent. I just sold them to him. And I says, well, that's fine, but they're bent. He goes, they're not a bent. I just bought them from him. Like, listen, guys, I don't know how they got bent, but they're bent. The one dude looks at me and straight up goes, maybe you have bent them. I said, excuse me? Maybe I have bent them. I bent your wheels that you weren't even here when you put them on, and you drove it in, right, with a bend, and I'm the guy that bent them. I'm like, we're done here. I can't help you. You guys need to take your business elsewhere. Just, holy Christ.
Yeah, it does happen. And being able to show someone what is actually going on with their car in situations like that is huge. And being able to prove it to them and being able to show them. But you'll have that. You'll have all kinds of characters come in, and you'll have to deal with them each in their own way. That, fortunately, kind of ended that situation. It didn't drag out any further.
Yeah,
than
the buck kind of stopped there.
It was obvious, and and it's amazing to me that people bring their cars to a dealership for something like that when I don't remember how bent they were, but usually if it's bent enough to cause a vibration at highway speed, maybe get the wheels balanced before you buy them. Get them checked if you've already got that issue and you've got.
You don't just go buy them off the money car. You have no idea the situation, or what happened to those in that car.
Right. So there's
always a tech's fault,
Right. Yeah. It's you're opening yourself up to get blamed for things that just don't have anything to do with you.
there's times that you would write a ticket and you did your walk around like you talked about in the service drive, right? So any customers listening on the phone, any customers listening on the podcast, if you're going to bring your car to a shop, take a walk around with the advisor or the front desk person and just get a general assessment of how the exterior looks. That way there is no he said, or he said, she said, or she said, whatever the case is, right? How you dropped your car off is how you should pick it up. And if something does happen, well, then just trust that the place is honest enough to say, listen, here's what happened. And we took the right precautions to fix it, or we'll make an appointment to fix it. Sorry about it. We'll take care of you.
It's just natural to kind of feel like you need to inspect your vehicle after you get it back, and having your probably enjoy your possession, your baby, in someone else's hands.
Well, you become more tuned to it. You're going over it with a fine-tooth comb now.
Can't help it, in there. Right, to make sure everything is as you left it. And you may notice things that you hadn't seen before because you're looking at it with a more critical eye.
And the first thing you think is like, I didn't do that, right? I take care of my car. Why would I do that, right? So
exactly.
We're the same way. So I would get the car back in the shop, and I would look it over too. And if I noticed something that was like, wow, that's obvious, I would write it down, or I would put a piece of tape over it and say, look, here's what was here, here's what I found. Just bring a manager's attention to it. There was times I'd open up a glove box and find a gun or a wad full of money.
All
right?
the time.
Like they're setting us up.
Sure.
I'd put it in a bag. You give it to the manager. Here, tell your customer, or tell the client, don't bring this here no more. If you're trying to fish for something bad to happen, it's going to happen, right? Because you're baiting them. That's not right. To a seasoned guy like myself, it's obvious, but. There was a video we were watching today. The dude driving around in a Mustang.
Oh yeah,
right. Driving around a New Jersey Ford dealer. It's a hot video. If you go on YouTube, I even asked the Abby to interview him just to see his side of it. So I'll see if he emails back. All right. So you bring your car to the shop. Let's say you bring the hottest car on the market today into the shop. Right. To a seasoned guy like myself, I don't care. Right. I've seen a bunch of these cars. I've been to the training. They're neat. I just want to do my work, fix your car, take care of you, and I want to go home.
And we can drive them during the pre-delivery. We can drive them when they're, if there's an issue in the lot, just to make sure there's no lot rot. We have a chance to drive these cars. It's not.
Yeah, we'll get our experience in them, right?
Right.
But let's say the 18-year-old, fresh out of high school, oil change guy, right? I think those are the guys that are giving us a bad name. Because they've never seen these kind of cars before. Sure. They've never driven this kind of power. So to them, they're on top of the world. Man, I work at this awesome dealership. Look at this hot rod that came in, So I don't know. So I'm kind of partial to say, like, it's not their fault, right?
Yeah.
Which is my rule number 3. Rule number 3 is it's not my fault. And rule number 3 is used especially when it's your fault. It makes perfect sense. So, something in their brain goes, a chemical reaction happens, and they act without thinking, right? So you can't fault them in the long run. At that time, hey, what the hell is your problem? Get out of my car. Get my keys back. I'm not bringing her anymore. But
don't do that.
If you talk to the guy, he wasn't out there maliciously trying to beat the hell out of your car, to destroy something, to break something. But something about him told him, oh man, this is it. This is the top of my day. It's never going to get any better than this. And he makes a bad judgment call, and he picks up 3 of his friends on the road test to all make bad judgment calls with him.
Multiple failed judgments there in that situation. For sure, and having the dash cam on and active. It was in the
middle of the windshield.
It wasn't hidden.
So obvious.
Watch out for that. First of all, don't be an asshole. Use people's cars as they would want you, like they were watching. Whether there's
5 down the side streets for one.
Don't do that stuff. It's just not good, and it gives the dealership a bad name if they're in that specific dealer was in a very metropolitan area.
It was like in the middle of a neighborhood.
Yeah, houses everywhere and cars parked all along the side of the street. You're just going to give your dealership a bad name, your shop, your repair facility a bad name by revving engines, racing 75 mile an hour down a 35 mile an hour zone.
Oh, for real.
It's not good for anyone. And do that in your own time. If you enjoy cars, take it to the track, enjoy it, as you see fit, but not with a client's car.
Yeah, if you're a technician listening, or a mechanic, or an oil change guy, or just if you work in the car field, right, salesman, service advisor, technician, whatever you want to call it. If a client drops the car off and you know you have to drive it, make it known with them, hey, just so you know, we're going to have to road test this for the noise. We're going to put some miles on it. If there's any issue, let us know. Because some people that have a high-end car, or maybe it's their baby, right? Like that's their garage queen. They bring it in. They don't want any miles on it, right? They want like me, if I bring my car in and I have a noise, I want to make sure they drove it for the noise. I'll reset the trip meter, right, and see if it was a quarter mile more or if it was 5 miles more, right? Because that way they tell them, okay, fine, they drove the car. I don't care. Sure. I don't care what they did when they drove it, as long as they drove it to try to find the noise, right? You want to prepare them too to say, hey, we're going to drive your car. Is it cool in case you see us out driving it? That's what we're going to do. Maybe here's the technician's name that's working on it, so or whatever the case is. But if you're the guy driving the car, man, you gotta realize there's eyes everywhere. There's people watching. If you're driving like a tool and you got dealer plates on it, they're gonna call. Yeah. I mean, they're gonna call. They're gonna call and complain. Some people are out there with a bad day and they're just waiting for a reason to call somebody and unleash on them. And that was one of my tactics with the new guy. Is I would walk up like, dude, did you just drive that black car with plate number yada yada yada? Well, yeah. Why? Oh man. Manager wants to see you. So you could walk all the way to the manager's office and stand there, and a manager would stare at him and go, "What are you doing in here?" Well, Lou said, "Get the hell out of my office." Oh, get out of here. Poor new guys. But when you're in these cars, treat them better than your own. I always made sure to take care of the client's car way better than I did my own, because the last thing you need is more egg on your face, by people saying, I brought my car in there and they got grease on the steering wheel, or they got footprints on the door panel because when you swing it open, you put your foot out to stop it.
Sure.
I mean, that's just the obvious stuff that people look for, but grease on the seat belts, on the seat, I mean, just ridiculous.
Well, as a dealer, you're going into that situation with people already not trusting you. And so if they're looking for anything, any little thing try to reinforce that feeling or that opinion of the dealer being the bad guy, you're just giving them feed and fodder for that. So it's not worth it in the long run. And you may have a client that encourages you to drive their car. I've got a guy that comes down several times a year and wants me to go fill his car up with premium, because at the station where he lives there isn't premium available, so he has us fill it up, and then he wants me to blow what he calls blow the cobwebs out of it. So I, run it up and down the highway a few times, get it going good and fast, and it's fun. It's enjoyable. He lets me do it. He knows that's what I'm doing with it, and he trusts me because I've worked with him for years and been able to maintain that relationship with him. But you'll have some of those people too that will appreciate your love for cars, and you can usually build upon that and have good conversations, and they'll at some point probably let you.
Well, let's talk about the owner, God rest his soul, of the Gentleman's Club.
Sure.
He would bring in his hot rods, and he would literally say, "Guys, just go enjoy the car."
Great guy.
Yeah. I love this. You guys got to take it out and see what it can do.
Yeah.
Like, oh no, we're good. We're good. We don't need to be, slide off the side of the road in your ride or whatnot. But you get some strange requests from people, or leniency. Right. I mean, some interesting stuff.
A lot of the people, especially with luxury cars, they're only going to have them a year or two. It's not a long-term investment for them that they plan on keeping 20, 30 years. So they know in a couple of years they're going to get something different anyway. You're not going to break it or do anything different than they do, and they are going to encourage you to enjoy the car, and that's always a fun time too. But back to the baiting potentially of people leaving things in cars. We have a client that always leaves wads of cash in the driver's door panel. Every time it comes through, it has just loose cash laying in the driver's door panel. That's just how I don't know if he uses it for tolls. I don't know what it's there for, but it's always there.
It's bad.
You got to be careful with that stuff.
So say somebody took it, right? Okay. Let's say the kid took it. Right. You don't know a situation, right? Let's say it was a detailer, because we 9 times out of 10 it's
the case.
It's a detailer. But
the car is going through people's hands that are potentially kids.
He's vacuuming the car, comes across some
$10 an hour.
Yeah. His family's hard up for money. That's the only job he can get, right? You bait him with some cash. The kid
Wednesday,
takes it.
Thursday,
get some fire from the
paydays
only
in a
job
couple
he had.
days.
Yeah, get some fire from the only job he could have had in the last year or two, right? So he did the bad thing, right? But you baited him by presenting him with
Moral of the
so
story.
many that who's going to miss just one, right?
Take your things out of the car as much as possible just to prevent that from being an issue.
Well, even if you're going to bring your car in for service, don't bring it in like you live in there.
Right.
I mean, how many times we had to charge extra time because, I can do your fuel pump, but I have to evacuate
everything out of the trunk or back seat.
You have 20 years worth of equipment or lifestyle back there.
Right. Or you didn't set my spare tire air pressure. Well, you had,
couldn't get it.
40 tons of baggage or equipment in the trunk. We couldn't remove everything, or we'd have to charge you to remove everything. But just be conscious. That's all.
So going back to the maintenance and oil changes,
we did digress there.
That's okay. It's going to happen. We got there's so much to talk about, right? We want to experience the people. Want to bring them up to date on stuff. We want to try to give them 10, 15 years
information and
and of all areas. We don't want to. I'm a technician, right? And you're an advisor. I don't want to spend too much time talking about technician stuff, right? And bore them all the time, right?
Sure.
But you don't want to spend too much time, so we got to give them a little bit of everything.
Yeah.
We'll get some salesmen in here too to talk about how that stuff works. Back to the flat rate and what technicians got paid. An oil change would pay 0.3 of an hour on almost every car, but some high-end cars where the oil change isn't that readily accessible, it would pay half an hour, sometimes an hour, if it was like an extreme sports car or whatnot. Some quick lube places, they don't understand what it entails to do that. I've had a coworker say that, I called the place to get my Volkswagen in, and they said we couldn't do it because it's a specialty oil filter. All they heard was Volkswagen, and they said specialty. It was a spin-on. It was no different than any other car, at least that one, right?
Sure.
Then there's other ones where you need a tool.
And some shops just don't want to take the risk, and that's usually something you can get around by either talking to friends or looking online, see if there's people that you're able to trust or build a relationship with in your area that works on that specific car, because it's difficult to find specialty shops for different cars and Chevy, Ford, the standard that you'd see on the road, Dodge.
So I had a guy tell me today, I was helping him with his car online, and he tells me, after I spent a half hour diagnosing it with him, on the phone, he tells me an hour later, I took it to a brand specific certified shop. And I said, oh, you took it to the dealer? He said, well, no. I said, well, just so you know, the only person that can certify another person is the actual manufacturer, the dealer.
Sure.
There is no certified anything outside of the dealer world, right? You can go to an independent shop and you can take the they call them ASC tests. I'm not a big fan of those. That's my opinion, in case any lawyers are listening. That's my general opinion, that it's based on theory, and all you have to do is pass a few tests, which you pay for, right? You pay a third party to take tests, and then you have to only prove of 2 years of field experience, and you can become master certified.
Is it really? Wow.
Tell me who the hell in their right mind knows anything about what they're doing in 2 years?
2 years.
You just don't. Now, do you get experience? Oh, you get experience. Sure. Do you have it figured out? You ain't got to figure it out.
And that is a good point for the quick lube spots. I mean, if you are interested in getting into the automotive field, it's not a bad place to start. If you need some experience just around cars and have absolutely none, it's not a bad place to start.
It's actually a good place because
the volumes there.
You get every make and model.
Right.
You get to figure out which ones you like to work on,
sure.
which ones are POSs, right?
Right.
In fact, I don't think there's a mechanic out there. Well, I'm not going to say that. I don't think that there's a guy out there that doesn't know a guy that's where they started.
Sure.
Me, I started at a tire place, like a Goodyear NTB way back in the day. When I was going through school, I needed a part-time job.
Sure.
So I did tires and alignments and whatever else. And you get so much volume that you get some good brand experience between all different makes. So, one guy who's, we work with a guy who's been working on one brand for 30 years. He brings in his car, which is a different brand, and has to look up how to change the oil because I don't work on this car. Well, okay, but it's a car, right? So, some of it's understandable, but they come so brand specific that you bring them another car and they're just lost, right?
Sure.
But when you start up in a field where You see all the makes and models and all the different things that can go wrong, or you take off brakes and see how certain models use the same manufacturers for brakes, because not a lot of car manufacturers make their own stuff.
No,
they outsource all that
very
stuff.
rarely. Other than the original design, most components are pretty shared.
Right.
And there are some special tools even for brakes. A simple thing that someone would think would be easy, talking about Volkswagen, their rear calipers you have to spin down. You can't just push them in with a C-clamp.
If you're going to do your own brakes, here's a tech tip, just a tip for the day. If you're going to do your own brakes on the car, all front calipers press in with, old school guys will say a C-clamp, but they actually make a caliper, tool that pushes the pad back, which pushes the pistons in. And if you got like a quad piston set up, it'll spread apart the insides and push the pistons back. But any rear calipers that have a parking brake attached to it,
right,
those are the ones that spin out, right? So if the parking brake was inside of the shoe, I don't think most of those spin, because there's no reason for it to spin, right? But the ones with the parking brake, that's when you pull it, it rotates a lever which twists it that much to set the parking brake. If you look at your piston and it doesn't have an empty center, if it has like a cross or dots or slots, it twists in. Okay, I've seen so many guys that it's got bad calipers. I couldn't push the piston in, so they go and they take all the time to take the calipers off, bring it to the parts store, get a new set. So now you just traded your good OEM calipers for crap aftermarket calipers, put them in, and now you got brake problems forever, right? Because you didn't know that they twisted in, or you broke them, right? If you didn't replace them because you thought you had to.
Break the tool trying to get it pressed together,
or you break the tool. I've even experienced 2 cars where on one side it spun clockwise to rotate in, and on the other side it spun counterclockwise. Which why would it even matter? They don't move. It made no sense to me, but that was the case.
And those tools are able to be gotten if you really want to do it yourself. It's something you can pick up a brake caliper compression kit from online, of course, but Harbor Freight sells a full kit for what, $20-$25.
Oh yeah,
you do it yourself.
You can buy inexpensive tools, but anymore nowadays, most parts stores, they'll loan you the tool.
Right.
You just pay a deposit, you get the tool, you use it, and you bring it back. Just be careful if you ask them how to use it. You get
some interesting.
You get some meatheads with
replies.
some. Oh yeah, so let's say if you're going to replace spark plugs, right? I heard one guy at the parts store say, you can put any plug you want in there. They all do the same. They go bang, 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 bang.
Nice.
So I say, hey man, do me a favor. You
don't ever say that again.
Quit talking to customers because you're dead wrong, right?
Way off.
There are certain brands that absolutely have to have certain spark plugs, certain brand engines. And you'll get to know this. American car manufacturers, for some reason, certain plugs work great in there, and other ones that are supposed to cross-reference to them, where they're supposed to work, they don't work.
And a lot of times, you don't need to waste your money on the quad-tip platinum,
I did it one time,
and
I thought I got an extra mile per gallon on my G6.
Well,
I don't know why you talk trash about that every time.
You did work at a parts store. Probably someone upsold you the platinum tips.
I got
the quads.
20% off with my discount.
But just use what the manual calls for. They'll give you 3 or 4 options, and a lot of times they're the least expensive ones. They're just the coppers or whatever the basic spark plugs that it requires are usually a lot less expensive than some of the unnecessarily complicated spark plugs that they offer.
Most times you see something online or on TV that says it's a power enhancer or get more MPGs. It never works because the car is smart enough to adjust for whatever you put in there. So it's gonna modify the air to fuel ratio. So you can go ahead and put a Canon air filter in there or another performance fleece air filter with oil on it and ruin your mass airflow sensor.
Right, and be very careful.
We've even had some high end cars where they throw a light because it gets too much air.
Sure.
Right. The car or the control module is smart enough to know at this gas pedal position and this outside air temperature how much air should be flowing through the intake, and if there's too much, it'll think there's a problem with the sensor and set a light on. So you just wasted your money on nothing, and you thought you were going to get an extra 1 mile per gallon or whatnot, but you're probably the same person that lets the car idle outside for half an hour so
warm up in the morning.
Yeah, so where's your fuel savings? You didn't get any fuel savings. But rounding back across back to the oil changes and the maintenance, do-it-yourselfers, it's great, But take the time to
do the research.
Yeah, do the research, read the owner's manual, see what the car needs. Maybe once a year, bring it to your local dealer or specialist shop and say, hey, can you look it over? Tell me if there's anything you see. It's always worth a second set of eyes. The oil change is as simple as it may seem. It's the most important part of the car, the important service. The engine won't run without oil. And if the guy doing the simple oil change isn't experienced or knowledgeable enough to know what he's using, what he's doing, that all oils are not created equal. There's a specific rating that has to go on certain oils, and just a simple mix-up can cost you a lot of money.
It's just not worth it in the long run for that kind of investment.
Well, it's not, and this is a perfect time for a jet engine oil guy. So, story time again. I was away, I think, for his first oil change.
Right. Our Porsche technician at the time.
Yeah, the other technician did the oil change. And when I came back from training, I believe he brought me the can and says, you won't believe who came in here. This dude wanted me to put in this jet engine oil. And that's what the guy stressed he wanted. So we let him know.
Insisted.
We'll do it, but it's against what the manufacturer recommends. So if something goes wrong, it's on you. And the guy's like, nope, Lou told me that's what I can use. And that was his words. Lou told me that's what I can use, right? I'll tell you, I'll bring this back around. So he didn't bring it to us for his 20,000 mile. I think the next time we saw it was his 30,000 mile. Okay.
I think we did the first two oil changes.
I'm trying to think. So he brought it back. Okay, well, let's say he brought it back for the second one then, right?
Sure. And it wasn't that many miles on it when everything
I got in the car and I remember these 9 round quarts of metal tin cans of
It was cool looking oil.
I mean, it sounded like water in there. It didn't even have a rating. Water. It just says jet oil. That's all it said on there.
Right.
So
there's no specs on the can at all.
I had to use an old school oil can popper, like a bottle cap opener.
Yeah.
Poke a hole in it. It just
comes in tins, like little back. World War II metal tins for oil. So, bizarre.
I'm looking at this and I'm like, I don't want to use this. And then the other tech's like, yeah, well, that's the guy. I'm like, oh, all right. So I go up to the guy. And I'm like, hey, okay. So I remember who it was. I had replaced his timing chains on his engine a year prior.
Oh, sure, yeah.
And what he said was, I said, hey, whatever you're doing to this engine, keep doing it because it's working, because it had 200 some odd thousand miles and you never would have known.
It looked clean.
Right?
It was
Apparently,
nice inside.
He told me he was using jet engine oil. I says, sir, if I'd have known you were using jet engine oil, I would have advised against it. Well, that's not what you said, Lou. You said, whatever I'm doing, keep doing it. I'm like, yeah, but look, I pulled out this oil filter and it's like gum. It melted or oozed the filter together. It swelled all of the O-rings on the oil filter housing. And I says, listen, I don't want to do this. He goes, listen, I'll sign off on anything you want. I want to use it because I got that oil for free or whatever.
Yeah, right? Fortunately for the shop, we had documented the first time and the second time.
He signed it. He
do not recommend.
Totally gung-ho
does
for it.
not, fall within manufacturer specifications.
So we did the oil change, and maybe by 30,000 miles, the engine detonated.
I don't even think it was that much.
I think it shot the piston through the center of the block up into the intake, which, if you take your hands and make a V with them like you're going to hold a basketball, the center of it is where the piston shot through and broke right into the intake, which is what takes all the air into the engine. There was so much metal. We call it carnage, right? We love seeing carnage. There was so much carnage in that engine. It was unsalvageable. There's nothing we can do with it.
Glitter.
So get the parts estimate. What it cost? $20,000?
$18,000,
yeah.
$20,000 to replace an engine on a car that was under warranty.
Under warranty. He still had 20,000 miles of warranty left.
Right.
If he would have done what he was supposed to do.
It was a brand new car. He bought the car brand new, and as a matter of fact, he still has that car.
Oh, does he?
He still drives it.
I wouldn't doubt it because he had 240,000 miles on his first one. But
correct. He still has the car. Has used the correct oil since then, and is still a client of ours. But yeah, what a crazy situation.
It was so. I kept that oil can on my toolbox for. I may even still have it in my garage.
Years. Yeah, that was
jet engine oil guy.
Something I'd never seen before. I didn't even know that oil existed.
It's just extremely important that whatever oil is supposed to go in your car, that's what you use. And I've come across forums and chats, and there's just people talking about ASH rating or the SP rating or the drip rating or the cleaning rating. Like there's no need for all that.
It gets deep. If you want to do oil research, you can spend days.
Well, there's so much more to worry about. Just put what they say in there and move on.
It's so easy. It's one thing you don't have to worry about.
You don't have to upgrade it.
So easy.
You don't need the high mileage stuff that they sell you. That's garbage. It's just a gimmick. You just, whatever they make for, if there was a high mileage recommendation, the owner's manual would say, hey, once you hit this mileage, we want you to change to this oil.
Switch to this.
They're not gonna lead you wrong.
That's true. I guess, and that's just to summarize on bringing in, your own things and coming up with your own ideas. At the end of the day, it just pays to follow the manual. We've had other types of items or repair processes brought in and wanting us to perform on their car, and it's just not a factory backed. And there are times where we have to say no. We just can't do it.
Yeah, we can talk quick about why can't I bring the shop my own parts? There's so many different reasons. So if I'm going to look over your car and I'm going to say it needs A, B, C, and D, I'm going to put what I think and what I know based on my experience, what the best part is for your car, which is going to give you that long-term satisfaction, right? Do you want to come back 14 times in a year for the same repair over and over and over again? And that's usually what happens. So you drive your car for 80,000 miles, then you need brakes. You go and buy them cheaper aftermarket or online, and then every year afterwards you're doing brakes again. Why is that?
Or they're noisy, or they don't bite the same way. So many safety systems rely on
they shake
on the brakes. Absolutely. It's a simple thing.
If you bring me your own parts, I'm going to put the car on the rack. I'm going to take the old part off. I'm going to go to fit your new part on, and it's not going to fit, or it's going to be the wrong one. So now I can't just drive your car off the rack. I've got to call you up and say, hey, Mr. Customer, the part you brought me doesn't work. I've got to wait for you to return it to Amazon or buy it again on eBay or wait for the auction to end just to find out that the second one you bought is no good. All the time I'm wasting going back and forth, on your car when I could have just brought it in, put what belongs on there.
Right.
The point isn't to make our money off of your part that we're buying or we're selling you, right? That's just, it's an end result. We're selling you the best part, so we're going to make the profit on it. But most people think that I can shave some dollars off if I just buy it myself.
Right.
That ends up costing you, whether it's time or money in the long run.
And most of the time, both. It's tying up one of our racks. Usually we don't figure it out until we already have the pads out of it or whatever the specific part is. We have it as part. We can't move the car without putting it all back together. That's more time which in turn means dollars on your side that's going to be involved in getting the fix done. And the factory-based and back parts are going to have their own warranty through the dealer. There's just so many things and perks that come along with that. That's just, at the end of the day, it's just not worth it. That being said, there are some good aftermarket parts. There you can get things from the manufacturer directly that you can't get from Mercedes without it being in its box, or you can't get from the manufacturer without it being in their packaging for much cheaper. Put it on yourself. It's just a risk that's more than likely not worth it by putting it on a technician or someone at a repair facility to try to put your parts on.
I'll accept that there are some good, I won't say aftermarket, but original
OEA.
Overstock or whatever they call it. Let's say there was a dealership going out of business, or a shop, right? So they sold the part, or somebody bought the part. It wasn't what the customer needed.
Sure.
So now they're selling that part online because they don't have another car that they can put it on. In that instance, that is okay. But you just want to ask around. Don't just look for the cheapest one. Don't filter your search by lowest price plus free shipping and buy the first one that pops up. And sometimes reviews aren't helpful because by the time people buy the parts, they bring it to a shop, have the shop may or may not put it on. It's already past the time that they could have reviewed the product, because most Amazon or eBay only give you 60, 90 days to review something before they lock it out, right? So some people don't even have the time to have it replaced right then and there. They're just wanting to prepare. So do your homework. If you want to get something cheaper, always inquire with the place that you're servicing your car at would you mind if I brought my own stuff? If you do mind, give me your reasons why. Because maybe they'll just straight up tell you, if you want to buy it from here, it's junk. There's certain things that I will not let people put on high-end cars. Anything that's European, do not put a starter on it. Do not put an alternator on it. Do not put an AC compressor on it. No one makes aftermarket control modules for those kinds of things, right? So you're kind of stuck in certain parts doing that.
And most likely the staff at that facility is going to have more experience and more just flat out volume of those cars coming in and knowing what works and what doesn't, and trust that person, and hopefully you've gained that trust and relationship at that point to trust what they're saying. If it takes the stress out of you, if you just let them fix it, if you run the situation where the parts department messed up and quoted the wrong thing or what have you, then that's on them. If you're bringing in your own stuff, then that's on you. You've got to pay for the time that the technician has involved in trying to make your part fit.
Some shops are going to charge you and say, as soon as it's wrong, what we're going to do, we're not even going to call you. We're going to put our part on it, and then the bill is what it is.
It is what it is.
And you just, not only did you spend more money that you maybe intended to, but now you gave that shop that impression of you that every time you come in, you're going to be a pain in their butt, right? Which they may not want to extend their hand to help you because they know that every time I try to tell this guy what he needs, all he wants to do is shop around and bring me the parts and tell me what I should do to the car, right? So it doesn't make a good rapport. And you know what I just forgot? I got that waiter we got to do.
Let's get on it.
All right.
Let's get them back on the road.
Stealership Stories. I'm Lou.
I'm Ralph.
Talk to you next time.
Peace.